In the heart of a bustling city, hidden away in a laboratory, a scientist named John Calhoun built a paradise. It wasn't for humans, but for a colony of 8 small mice. This carefully constructed world, known as Universe 25, was designed to be perfect in every way. It was a large, temperature-controlled enclosure, free from predators, disease, and the harsh realities of the wild. Food and water were provided in seemingly endless supply, more than the mice could ever consume. Nesting materials were plentiful, allowing for the construction of comfortable, safe homes. Calhoun's goal was to see what would happen to a society when all its basic needs were met, when scarcity was a forgotten concept. He hypothesized that with all survival pressures removed, the mice would flourish, their population growing until it reached the enclosure's physical capacity. What he observed, however, was something far more disturbing. It was a slow, creeping collapse, a social decay that unfolded in predictable, terrifying phases. The experiment began in July 1968, and at first, everything went exactly as planned. The initial 4 pairs of mice took some time to acclimate to their new, luxurious surroundings. After 104 days, they began to reproduce, and the population entered a period of rapid expansion. This was the golden age of Universe 25. The population doubled every 55 days. It's a testament to the idyllic conditions. Social structures formed, with mice claiming territories and raising their young in a stable, organized manner. The world was full of purpose and vitality. But as the population grew, cracks began to appear in the foundation of their perfect society. By day 315, the population had reached 620 mice. The enclosure was becoming crowded, but there was still more than enough food, water, and nesting space for everyone. The problem wasn't a lack of resources, it was a lack of social space. The established social order began to break down. Older, more dominant, males found it increasingly difficult to defend their territories from the sheer number of younger challengers. The constant stress of these encounters led to a state of perpetual conflict. Soon, many of the alpha males simply gave up. They became exhausted, apathetic, and unable to perform their social roles. They failed to protect their mates and their young, leaving their families vulnerable to attack. In the absence of these protectors, the females were forced to become more aggressive to defend their nests. They took on the roles of both mother and father, but the strain was immense. Many became violent, even towards their own offspring. They would attack their young, wound them, and sometimes abandon them entirely. Infant mortality soared. In some areas, the survival rate for young mice dropped to 0. The very fabric of family life had unraveled. As the older generation faltered, a new generation of mice was born into a world of chaos and violence. They never had the chance to learn proper social behaviors. They grew up without role models, without a sense of belonging or purpose. These younger mice reached adulthood, but were socially adrift. Many males became completely withdrawn. They would gather in large, passive groups in the center of the enclosure, doing nothing but eating, drinking, and sleeping. They never engaged in courtship, never fought for territory, and never participated in the social life of the community. Their coats were pristine, unmarred by the scars of conflict, earning them the nickname from Calhoun's team, the Beautiful Ones. They were physically perfect specimens, yet they were socially sterile, ghosts in their own society. Their lives were devoid of meaning, a cycle of consumption and grooming without any higher purpose. The female counterparts of the Beautiful Ones also withdrew. They isolated themselves in the higher, more secluded nesting boxes, shunning social interaction and refusing to reproduce. The birth rate plummeted. Even when the population began to decline, the remaining mice did not return to normal social patterns. The social pathologies they had developed were irreversible. Capacity for connection, for raising a family, for building a community had been lost. The last surviving birth in Universe 25 occurred on day 600. The population had peaked at 2,200 and was now in a steep terminal decline. The society was effectively extinct long before the last mouse perished. The remaining inhabitants lived out their lives in a state of social autism. They were surrounded by their peers but were utterly alone, trapped in their own private worlds. The paradise had become a living tomb. Calhoun called this phenomenon the behavioral sink. It wasn't a resource crisis that destroyed Universe 25. It was a spiritual one. It was the decay that sets in when life becomes too crowded, too anonymous, and devoid of meaningful roles. When the number of individuals capable of filling a social role greatly exceeds the number of roles available, the result is a breakdown of the social order. Individuals become disconnected, withdrawn, and ultimately lose the very behaviors that define them. Calhoun conducted these experiments not just to study mice, but to understand the potential dangers facing humanity. He saw our ever-growing cities as modern-day versions of his enclosures. He worried that as urban populations swell, we too could fall victim to the behavioral sink. He saw parallels in the growing sense of alienation, the breakdown of communities, and the rise of social withdrawal in modern society. Are we creating our own beautiful ones? Individuals who are physically provided for but spiritually empty, disconnected from the very social bonds that give life meaning and purpose? Calhoun's work serves as a chilling reminder that our psychological and social needs are just as critical as our physical ones. A world without challenge, without purpose, and without genuine connection is not a paradise. It is a recipe for collapse. The mice of Universe 25 were not starved of food, but of meaning. They had everything they needed to live, but they had forgotten why they should. Their story is a profound and unsettling allegory for our own time. It compels us to look at our own cities, our own societies, and ask difficult questions. Are we building communities that foster connection, or are we simply warehousing a growing population in a state of comfortable isolation? The fate of Universe 25 suggests that the greatest threat to our survival may not be an external enemy or a lack of resources, but a slow, internal decay of the social spirit. Thank you for watching. If you found this exploration into the complexities of society and human nature thought-provoking, consider subscribing to Infinite Oenial for more deep dives into the ideas that shape our world.